All right. Hi, everyone. I hope we're all having a good time today. My name is Max, your host for this evening. This webinar is brought to you by Saliksik, the Philippines' first crowdsourcing platform for Filipino research. The team aims to promote the importance of research in the development of our country, to humanize, deconstruct, and if I may say so myself, to demystify the notion of the elusive researcher, as well as to empower aspiring researchers in the Philippines. Before we move on, we just wanted you to know that we are back with another round of research projects out for crowdfunding. This is a chance for fresh graduates, also for undergraduate students who are about to graduate, needing to do their theses or dissertations. We have two great projects that need your help in making their research come to life. We have Rebirth. They are aiming to build a birthing tool that allows mothers to give birth in the position of their choice. Next would be Philippine Twitter sentiment analysis on COVID-19 response, a very relevant research prospect we have here. The team will use machine learning to analyze public sentiment of the Philippine government's response to COVID-19. To know more about these projects and support them, visit saliksikph.com. That's saliksikph.com. All right? Today's event, SalikeSPEAK, opens conversations about research, especially between Filipino researchers and researchers from abroad. Since this is a conversation, we make it organic, we make it a continuing discourse. We would like to get your comments and questions as we go along. We have set up a Slido page, that's Slido, Slido, that you can go to. So that's slido.com. Scroll down a bit and you should see a box to input the event code. Type in SalikeSPEAK, no need for caps, and the next page is where you can send us your questions, right? We'll be reading out your comments, questions, and even shout outs if you wish to do so later during the open discussion. We'd also love to hear what you like most about the talk and how we can apply these concepts in the Philippines, okay? That's so many things to talk about. We now move on to the main event for today. All right, so our speaker is from Paris, France. He is a researcher, entrepreneur, and co-founder of Just One Giant Lab, JOGL, Joggle, among other organizations he co-founded. Joggle is the first research and innovation laboratory operating as a distributed, open, and massive mobilization platform for volunteer-based IP-free task solving. We have Thomas Landrain. Hey, Thomas, how are you?
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm super glad to be here.
Thanks, Thomas. How have you been ever since our technical rehearsal a few days ago? Have you been well?
Except that France is now under a new wave of coronavirus, and so we have new restrictions.
Okay, yeah, I did see that on CNN. I hope you're safe and healthy. That's the most important part.
We just cannot go out after 9 p.m. now.
Curfew, you have curfew.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of COVID-19, I wanted to ask, how have Joggle's partnerships been under COVID-19 initiative? That's your latest project under Joggle, right? How has that been for you?
Yeah, so Joggle is a very new project. We launched the beta version of the platform last summer, so during the summer 2019, I mean, and the main goal of Joggle is to bring project leaders that want to do good, using science and technology, with volunteering contributors. People who would like to be able to contribute to science, advanced science, or technology in a collective way. So there are a lot of projects out there, a lot of problems, I would say, that are underrepresented, are underexplored because they neither fit in the academic world or in the corporate world. So being able to give a voice to underrepresented people also is very important, and to diversify the approaches. So that's the core of Joggle. And when the COVID-19 pandemic arose, for us, we designed Joggle exactly to face this kind of massive crisis, because you need massive mobilization. it's a very complex problem. We need a very interdisciplinary approach to the solving of it. And so we launched this research program called Open COVID-19 with the goal of mobilizing massively around the world, teams of people that are all volunteers of different disciplines. We basically go beyond borders and disciplines, so that they could work together to create tools and methodology that could help us fight the pandemic. And there is one very important aspect, is that everything that happens on Joggle is fully open source, meaning that we are here creating commons, scientific and technological commons, the same way as you would normally use Wikipedia. Here you can just access Joggle and use whatever people have been working on, for example.
Thank you for that response. Like I've also been writing down my takeaways that I'll be tackling later on. Thank you for that very enlightening response you have there. And I think our audience would better appreciate it if we don't just talk about Joggle, but we also give them visuals. So I'm going to give the floor to you now to show you your PowerPoint presentation about Joggle. Go ahead, Thomas.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to use this slideshow to introduce why having an open and community approach of science and innovation is important, especially in in big challenging times as we are living right now. In the introduction, I was explaining you that we have two main ways today of answering a problem using research or innovation. You have the institutional way, like being a researcher in academia, or you have the corporate way, creating a company, creating a business model, and trying to create a product or service that is going to be bought by people that are interested in solving that problem. The problem here is that there are a lot of problems that doesn't really fit in those two worlds. They don't cover everything. If as a company, you cannot work on the problem where it's going to be difficult to create a business model. For example, let's talk about refugees. Are you going to create a service for refugees? Are you waiting for refugees to pay for something? No, it doesn't work. Or if you're in academia, you're so focused, on an academic career, being able to publish all the time, that sometimes it's very hard to be able to have to be motivated by the problem and not by the funding, agency strategy. So there is a need to provide the opportunity for citizens to speak up, to be able to say, I want to be able to work on such a problem, but also to professionals, even researchers and entrepreneurs, to say, I may actually want to contribute to, but not at the individual level, not using necessarily my professional framework. And so being able to bring those people together and offering them a new kind of framework is really important. I'm going to tell you why. So we live in a very special period right now. And we've seen the creation of beautiful community-based initiatives. This has been accelerated thanks to the internet. And the internet is kind of new when you think about it, but communities are not. They've been around since basically humans exist. It's natural for us to come together, but so far, communities were very local. You can only meet people that were close to you physically. But now, thanks to the internet, you can, meet with someone who is on the other side of the earth and share the same passion or the same interest as you. And so it recreates the opportunity to see the creation of new kind of communities. Communities that will have a very hard time to exist. Why? Because let's say, for example, to bring some people that are really passionate by, let's say, nuclear physics. Nuclear physics is not something you find in every. People interested by nuclear physics, you don't find them in every corner of every cities. So to be able to bring those people together, the way we used to do it before is by creating campuses, physical campuses, universities, research laboratories, so that we can bring those people together so that they can work together, we give them resources, etc. But thanks to the internet, we don't have to do that anymore because we can connect people, and they can talk, they can design experiments, but then obviously they need to access a laboratory. But if you don't do nuclear physics, if you do something more like affordable, let's say microbiology or let's say medical engineering, it's going to you're going to find probably local laboratories who can host you, for example. And so what's interesting here is this opens up new kind of dynamics for how research is organized, and also who can participate in research. Because if you don't have to be a professional researcher, being part of an academic institution so that you can have access to the university campus, but instead that you can be someone who is motivated and has learned skills that can be applied to a project, you can be anywhere in the world and still participate. So this is very strong. This is very powerful. And so Open Laboratories has really accelerated this. Those Fab Labs, hacker spaces, community laboratories. There is a network everywhere in the world. And what's interesting is they've been catalyzing this whole movement, of open science, open technologies, open source, open source hardware, open source software, and open biology. All this is great, but there was one limitation is, again, we were restricted to local levels of collaboration. It's very hard actually to bring people together. I've been trying in the past many times to create network of Fab Labs and community labs, and it's hard. And so we had to face this limitation, and I've myself actually built community laboratories. I've actually created the first community lab in France, and one of the very first one in the world, La Paillasse, back in 2009. And what's great with this with those approaches is it's by decreasing the cost of access to technology to the laboratory. You diversify basically the base of people who can think about using such laboratory. If it's not only professionals, but even a kid, a citizen, it means that this person is going to project himself or herself differently than a professional because they won't have the same motivation. So it really opens up the spectrum of possibilities of how to use technology for doing good or answering a problem, and this is very exciting. And I would say there is also like pretty much a missed potential out there. When you look at it, there's about 1 person in 1,000 in the world who contribute to science, like to the advancement of knowledge. People that are actually, publishing in peer-reviewed journals. About 8 million. That's the number I could find using all the authors' name, in scientific papers. It looks like it's big, but it's actually very small. Especially if you compare to the fact that we have more than 1 billion people who got access to higher education in the world. So can we at least recover like a bit of those people who could contribute, like let's say maybe times 10? Imagine what you could do. Now, what we all could do together, that would be amazing. But the problem is that we have no institutions currently that can accommodate this kind of large communities and distributed communities. So we have to invent a new way of doing this. And I'm going to jump this part, but the main difficulty is solving this accessibility issue. What do I mean by that? On one hand, you have people who have a clear idea about what needs to be solved, like the problem they're facing, like researchers, entrepreneurs, civil servants too, and activists. They're on the field. They're very focused, but they don't necessarily have all the right people, skills or resources to be able to put in place, to create actually the right momentum to solve their problem. Sometimes, as a researcher, for example, it can take up to 2 or 3 years between the moment you have an idea and the moment you can start implementing it. It's a really long time. On the other hand, you have people, such as students, professionals, patients, citizens, any kind of people who are motivated to be able to contribute to a specific problem, being able to contribute to, let's say, solving a local problem that is being created by climate change or because of social inequalities, or there are so many things that we are interested in contributing to, but being able to do it at the scientific level or technological level, it's really hard, because how do you find the right people? How do you find the right projects? How do you get in? How do you know which part you can contribute to? And there is a connection, issue here. So that's what we're trying to solve. And there's been other platforms such as academia.edu, ResearchGate, etc., who has been trying to connect researchers together, but that's the only thing. It's only for academics. So they didn't think at any moment that science could be done by non-academics. Science, academia has the monopoly of science today. And this is wrong, obviously, because anyone can apply the scientific methodology. So that's the reason why we created Just One Giant Lab. The idea is we have to create a new kind of research institute to be able to work with communities around the world in a distributed manner, so that anyone can be a member, and we can connect those people together, in giant teams, so that they can, achieve something that would not have been possible otherwise. And so actually, we just celebrated, 3 months ago, a 1-year anniversary. But I'm going to give you a small example, which is actually not very small, of what we can do with Joggle. I was just explaining in the introduction what we've done for the COVID-19 pandemic. At Joggle, we do two things. The first is we have this open source platform that is free, that anyone can access, where you can create a profile, you can create a project, you can describe what are your needs, you can connect with other members of Joggle, of the Joggle community, and start collaborating. But we also create research programs, and a research program at Joggle is basically targeting one problem, and we have partners helping us support all the community and the projects by providing funding, by providing also mentorship, etc., etc. And Open COVID-19 is, it started with a focus around diagnostics first, and what's been incredible is it has completely exploded. In March we had about, we started the program on the 1st of March, and we started with like 10 to 15 people. I made a call to the community that we have to work on a new kind of diagnostic test that can be very affordable and especially open source, so that anyone in the world can reproduce it and distribute it. And in just a month, we had more than 1,000 people that joined the platform and were starting to work on projects. And nowadays, we have more than 120 projects that are working on COVID-19, related problems. So it's really quite impressive. And the community is really international. We have people coming from more than 120 countries too. And it's very interdisciplinary. It's not only about diagnostics, but prevention also, such as creating tools for doing fact-checking, or creating tools for facilitating education at a distance for children, or explaining what is a virus, creating serious games. People also working on tracking algorithm, also to help be able to connect people who have been potentially in contact and know if you've been contaminated or not. And people working on treatment technologies such as ventilators or syringe pumps, also electronic syringe pumps for hospitals, etc., etc. And it's been really amazing to see the level of quality of projects. I was really amazed. I knew there was some potential, but I was really amazed by the level of dedication and quality that the project have put in. And to give you an example, if you look at the diagnostic test, we have so far about 5 diagnosis tests in being created. 4 of them are now in the semi-final of the X Prize, facing big companies, pharmaceutical companies projects, and companies like startup with like completely different level of budget. And this is for me a beautiful proof of concept that a community, an open approach of science and innovation, does not only work, but also is very efficient and scalable. So it's basically the proof that this kind of approach can scale in the future, and that we were right actually of doing this. And when you look at the kind of teams, the kind of people who contributed to those diagnostic tests, we have people working, in research laboratories. Obviously, we have researchers, but we also have people working in biotech startups, engineers, scientists working in companies. We also have, biohackers, people working in community laboratories. We have people working in public institutions such as the CDC in the US. And it's very interesting to have this kind of mix of people, because they would have never met otherwise. In fact, most of the people that have created projects on Joggle, they never met before. And so by providing them the right support, the right onboarding process, also providing them the right peer pressure, through the fact that the community is there to control also the project. The committee is reviewing the projects. In fact, the committee is also deciding on who can get funding or not. And it works because we have this giant digital community composed of many kind of skills, and people are in contact all the time. During the pandemic, we had several calls a week, between the different members of the community. In fact, once a week we had this, global community call where all projects could come in and speak and explain what they were doing and what kind of updates they had on the project. So it was very self-motivated for them. They knew that they were being heard, and people were expecting results. So it was a good motivation. So it was really fantastic. And another aspect that I told you just before is how do you imagine yourself, you just created this team and you want to create this project that is going to cost you, let's say, I don't know, like $3,000 to create, but you're already volunteering yourself to work around the site. Are you going also to use your pocket money to pay for that? That's going to be difficult. And so can you imagine asking for money to institutions or great grant agencies? That's not going to work because you don't really exist. You're just a team of people with no official existence, except the fact that you're united on Joggle and you are motivated to do a specific project. So how do we support those kind of projects? One way would be that you do a crowdfunding. So that's basically what Saliksik is doing. And another way is to provide grants. And so Joggle became basically a grant provider. So we were funded by some of our partners, and in exchange, we created a macro grant system. And how does it work? It's a very small amount. It's about up to 5,000 euros. And to get access to it, you need to be reviewed by the community. So you have a template, you write down your project as if you were to apply to a normal grant in another agency, except that everything is transparent. So everybody can read your application, your project, your ID, your vision, and what you need to make it. And anyone can go and review your project, and we have a little form that people can fill and with a set of questions, tell us what's going to work or not, and if they think this is feasible or is going to have an impact. At the end, we compute all those answers, and we have a score for impact and a score for feasibility. And what's fantastic is that automatically, if a project has a score of impact and feasibility that is higher than 3.5/5, it's funded. It means that it's not even us, deciding who get funded or not. It's really the community itself. And this is very strong because it provides a high level of responsibility to the community. And this is very, very important in a community-based research, institute or laboratory. The community has been incredible and involved and responsible. We would have not been able to create this whole ecosystem without the help of the community itself. What I mean is, we basically face three major hurdles. It's very hard to be able to onboard thousands of people, to review dozens and dozens of projects, to monitor what's going on in the project, in the community, in a centralized manner. You cannot do that with a small team. So with a distributed philosophy, by asking the community to be able to do that instead of us, that's basically the only way it works. And it's a very great advantage of having a community-based approach. And so the onboarding was made by the community. So as a new member, you will arrive and someone from the community will welcome you, explain you how it works, etc., and what you can do. Projects were being reviewed by the community, as I was explaining you, and the monitoring of what's going on within the community and the project. If something, for example, a project goes a little out of bound, compared to our safety guidelines, then we can enter a discussion and can be detected, and we have this very positive and benevolent discussion with the project leaders. And those guidelines, those biosafety and biosecurity guidelines, for example, they were written by and composed and written by community members. So it really opens a lot of possibilities about what's possible. Now, all of this will have normally cost millions. I'm not kidding, like millions, literally, if we were to do all this in a centralized institutional way, the traditional way of today. But doing it in a distributed and community-based way, it becomes affordable, and that's what's amazing. This was possible thanks to some of our big partners, such as the AXA Research Funds or the APHP, the Paris Hospital Association. In fact, what's important for those projects is not to go to the stage of the proof of concept. That's not enough. You want really, if you're doing a diagnostic test, you want to be able to have a clinical validation. And so we've been partnering with APHP to be able to do that. They gave us access to laboratories of virology or medical doctors or nurses, so that we could have information coming from the field, and so that we could influence the development of the project. But in exchange, they could actually take some of our devices, and prototypes, so that they could test them in a hospital environment. And they've been doing this, for example, for face mask. They've been doing this for syringe pumps, but also for diagnostic tests. In fact, we had some very encouraging results, for the diagnostic tests. So this is very positive, because if those diagnostic tests really goes all the way to clinical validation, they will become the first open source diagnostic test for COVID and any basically disease in the world. That's pretty big when you think about it, because So far, we are used to having open source bricks for software and hardware, but not that much for biology. And this is, I think, going to change now. Just to show you, the growth of the community. So as I was saying, we were very young, and we in around February and March, we had this big boom because Joggle was basically one of the only platforms out there where you could join to be able to contribute to COVID-19 research projects. And the community is really is very international. And even though it's mostly from Europe, North America, and India, we are now actually putting extra energy so that we become actually more known in other parts of the world, so that we can create more international collaboration. So that's why I'm very happy actually to participate to this conference, so that you can know more about what's going on, and if you're willing to actually bring your ideas and projects and yourself to the platform and start working with the community. It's what the beauty of such an approach is that you can be in any part of the world, then you have this ability to get visible by any other person on the planet. Joggle has had a planetary reach. So far, we have now almost 5,000 contributors on Joggle, and just on Open COVID-19, about 1,500. And when we look at the number of people that had come to the platform and watch and read some of the projects, because everything is you can read about it. You don't have to be a member of the platform. It's like on Wikipedia already. We had visits from more than 100,000 people coming from more than 180 countries. That's almost all of the countries in the world. And so that's very exciting, because it means that it's we can achieve something that a normal institute cannot do. And when you actually look back, and when you consider that we have thousands of people, more than 100 active projects, this community is having more impact, more productivity than any research institute in the world by itself. And that's really impressive, and for a fraction of the cost. So my vision here is that we will see more and more of those kind of projects. We will see more traditional research agencies and foundations or companies turn their eyes toward those community approaches to be able to have projects developed to have an impact. Because the company way, it works extremely well when you have a business model, but for many other projects, it's more difficult. And so this is a very great complementary approach for what already exists in the world. So I would just celebrate our partners, because without them, it would have been impossible to create everything we've done. And obviously also our team. We're super fortunate to have such a great team of people. And in fact, a team that has been growing a lot during this year, and we have a recruiting strategy where most of our members nowadays, they come from the community. So they've been active in the community first as volunteers, and they're super motivated. And when we open up a job position, basically we recruit from the community directly, and has been working marvelously. And on this, I would like to thank you for your attention.
All right. Thank you so much, Thomas. That was really enlightening for me. I've been reading Joggle's white paper for 2 days now. It's clearly a different experience when I'm listening to you talk earlier on. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. The first question that I have is for me personally. I work in the academe. So one of the takeaways I got from your presentation is that it's a wonderful idea. You have your Joggle has a very wonderful approach. It's community based. To me, it's bottom top. So it's basically you're crowdsourcing people to work with you towards a common goal. And everything is for free. It's very easily accessible. And I can't help but think that you sound like a competitor to journal articles who persist on subscriptions. So my question is, don't you think that you pose a threat to journal articles relying on subscriptions to persist?
I wouldn't say so. I think that if you want to be able to get recognized by your peers, especially in the international scientific community, you still have to get published in standard journals. There are some alternatives nowadays. You have pre-publication platforms such as Archive or bioRxiv, etc. But at the end, if you like the way we review projects is mostly actually to decide on what projects are on the right path and who wants to be able to like who can get access to a grant basically, but it's not yet at least a peer reviewing system that enables a final review of a scientific article. So we're not a competitor, but the idea is more to how do we enable people to create projects that can be published later on in journals that will be obviously open access and free to use. And we have more and more of those journals appearing. So I would say we're more in the in the first phase, the phase coming before publishing in journals.
All right, thank you for answering that question. Personally, I think that whichever journal articles there are that still persist in subscription, I think should follow your lead of making everything open, considering that it's one issue in the academe. Like, you have wonderful ideas, yet you still don't have the money to make those ideas into a reality. So, and that's not just for science, that's for all disciplines. All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you, Thomas. We're looking at questions from the audience now. So here is it. How does Joggle treat results? Oh, sorry, it disappeared. I'll read it again. How does Joggle treat results of research done through the platform that may be the subject of patent protection? Does Joggle have it patented or share in royalties? Very practical question we have here.
Yeah. So the baseline of Joggle is that everything that happens on the Joggle platform becomes open. So you cannot imagine developing IP-based, projects on Joggle. It's a basic rule that we've put in place because mixing community approach and IP is almost impossible. Sharing IP within the community is a nightmare, and also we strongly believe that there is a need to develop IP-free, technologies and methodologies for the world. So if you want to create something with IP, that means that you pretty much have a vision of financial valorization, and so it's better actually for you to go towards the creation of a company. So you want to create a team, you want to raise money, and you need to have IP and assets that you to give guarantees to your funders. In our case, we're not interested in that because the startup pathway works very well, and you have many organizations that are going to help you. No, here we are here to support and help projects that will not be able to follow that path or don't want to be based on IP. And nowadays, there are not that many institutions being able to support those kind of projects. And that's where we come in.
Thank you. I have another question here. What are the challenges in operating a platform like Joggle? I've been thinking of that question too, actually.
Yeah, obviously, like any projects, a lot. But Joggle is special in the sense that it's purely virtual. So we don't have an office. We don't have a physical space. Even though the nonprofit organization is based in Paris, most of the team actually is outside France. I am myself actually based right now, not even in Paris. I'm in Marseille, and I move actually quite a lot. the our team is working in a distributed manner too. Most of our members actually haven't met physically more than half of my team. And we have people working in the US, in Canada, in England, in Germany, in Africa, also in Ghana, for example, or Cameroon. So it's a challenge by itself when it's new, but at the end it works very well because we just apply the same principles to what people are doing on Joggle to ourselves as a team, and so that's one challenge. But as a platform, you have to face a dilemma where the platform is free. So the development of the platform for Joggle is we're developing it by basically losing money. Because we really want it to be entirely free and open source, and so we basically fund the development of the platform using funds coming from research programs that we are funded for, and so it's a fixed fee, and we transfer it to the development of the platform. Without it, we won't have actually any research programs. So it's a very special kind of business model that guarantees the development of a platform which can remain free, and obviously. We cannot raise like money or capital like a normal company, and so we always have to be at break even. On day one, we have to be break even basically. So it's a very complicated business model. It's always fine tuning all the time, and so when you face massive growth like what happened during the pandemic. We went from 500 users to 5,000 users, and we had like hundreds of projects. Our servers, they crashed many times, and we had to upgrade everything. So the way we can address growth basically as a non-profit organization is not as a normal company where we would raise funds, because we can prove that we have growth. But it's basically relying also on the participation of the community. Otherwise, it's impossible. And it's been an awesome adventure. But I think it's I've been an entrepreneur on other kind of projects, even startup projects. So I've been raising funds, raising capitals before. It's a very different feeling. It's a very different approach. It's very different philosophy. So it's and I think that it's not that hard, when you understand the principle. It's like when you go and do your first fundraising. It's always hard, how does it work? Where do I start? And here is how do I create my first community, that can help me develop this approach. It's always hard at first, but once you get the logic of it, it becomes a habit.
Thank you, Thomas. Sorry, I was struggling a bit with technology because I was also looking at your Joggle website and this live feed we have now, and it just makes so much sense right now that I'm talking to you, as opposed to the past few days that open science, all right, okay. But anyway, a question that I've been wanting to ask ever since the tech run is that there were two features of Joggle that I found really interesting. So one is collaboration. Another is transdisciplinarity. And a research interest that I'm also pursuing right now is collaboration. And one thing I noticed about it is, the more people there is in the project, the higher the chances that chaos would happen. I mean, we embrace the chaos, but it's still a problem of sorts. So my question is that, has it always been smooth sailing with projects that need collaboration? Like, don't people kind of argue with each other sometimes, especially between or across disciplines?
You mean like having difficulty understand each other?
Not quite the language barrier. More of there's the humanities approach and there's the scientific.
Yeah, I mean, like
approach.
understanding each one's approach of a similar problem. Yeah. Good point. Probably that there's been some difficulties. I haven't saw it because you need to be there. Basically, the discussion
Right.
happening, you know. And I was not in all discussions happening on Joggle, obviously. The one answer I could make is I've been really impressed by the patience and the willingness of the committee members to really be pedagogical. Being able to explain that if you're having this open approach for collaboration, you're willing actually to spend the time to explain to those members that you don't know what they need to do for you, or with you.
Right.
And so most of the stories I've got are stories of people who met, who discussed, and decided to work together, even though they never met before. And obviously, when someone knows, I don't know, it's a good point. I think it would be worse to look at, like, especially in teams that are like have a very high level of interdisciplinarity. So we can
Right.
look for the teams. Because we know the skills of everyone on the platform, so we could actually look at it and see if there was any difficulty in those teams. Especially, we could actually ask the questions. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. Like, I'd share it with my colleagues who are also into collaboration. Okay, so I was told to read some shout outs first before the next question. So, wait. All right, so this might interest you, Ma'am Zenaida Boho, Regina Carla Regalado, Taduran, Sir Forteza, Rex Ryan Molial, and also Elise Rolon. Not quite sure how to pronounce it, but I try. Thank you for the shout outs. I feel like we're on a celebrity show or something for all of these shout outs. Okay, now I'm told to ask another question from the audience. So I'm looking at in Joggle, aside from the COVID-19 projects, what are the most impactful projects underway?
It's very hard to say because there are so many different projects, and it's very hard to evaluate. They are still in developments, but I've given the example of diagnostic tests. Obviously, those are going to have like a great impact. Still in the biotech world, we have people working on ways to produce open source enzymes that could be used for those tests, for example. And so they've been designing protocols and bioreactors that are open source and very low cost to be able to do that. We have, for example, also a project more looking at the impact of COVID-19 on human rights, and it's a kind of observatory to observe and explore and analyze the effects of the pandemic. So it's called Project Lockdown if you want to check it. We have obviously been helping project of face mask, and some of those face masks, open source face mask, obviously. They're also in the process of being approved by some authorities, like in Canada, for example. We've helped select some of the best designs for face masks and face shields in France. And it's and then we have people working around data, and so we there's been a beautiful project called Quantified Flu, where they use data coming. Yeah, they use data coming from wearables. So you can share, you go to the platform, you share your data, it's anonymous, but people can then use your data to make some analysis. It's a project that is co-developed with the Open Humans Foundation. And they use those data. At first they wanted to see by using just the wearables data, like your watch, your smartwatch, or smartphone, or your balance, and if it was possible to diagnose someone who just get COVID. And the answer at the end was actually no, you cannot really, because the level of precision of those data is not high enough. However, you can, by mixing the data of many people together in a similar region, you are able to observe the duration of symptoms, somehow, like gives trends, and so you're able to predict the arrival, or the movement of the pandemic in the region, and that's pretty cool.
It does sound pretty cool. I'm Googling right now as I'm talking to you, but
yeah.
Anyway, thanks.
In fact, so we also have people working on social medias, doing some analysis. And in fact, when you presented some of the projects that are being crowdfunded, on your platform, the one about the sentiment analysis of Twitter for COVID, we have one project like this, and at first it was about vaccination. You should check it up on Joggle. And it was
is open on my laptop. Sorry. It's open right now. Open COVID-19 initiative. I'm actually looking at it right now as I'm talking.
Yeah. So so it's not. I don't think it's part of the Open COVID-19 program, because it was a project being developed before, even though it was about vaccination. Right. And they were looking at the reaction of people on social media as around vaccination. And so they created this beautiful algorithm that can do sentiment analysis and creating maps and dynamic maps, how people react around vaccination, and it's completely open source. So I believe that this project that wants to be able to do that for COVID should definitely have a look to what this team is doing for vaccination and maybe adapt it to COVID.
All right, thank you for that. We have another question. And I think this is very, there you go. It's flashed on the screen. It's very practical for medical practitioners. When can we expect a product or prototype or a potential scale up from the open COVID-19 projects?
So that depends on the type of technologies, obviously. If it is a digital product, it's easier than if it is a biotech product. Like the quantified flu basically is already in the scalable phase, but if we look at the diagnostic test, I think right now the teams still need about 3 to 4 months, before being able to to go all the way towards having a first version that can be clinically validated, and start being able, and other companies can start producing it and distribute it. So I think that we won't see an impact from like hardcore engineering project before the beginning of 2021. But I think that's still amazing. Like less than a year, after the creation of those projects, they will be able to have, a product and be able to share what they've been doing. And we have to think that what's being done right now is obviously applicable to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's going to be used for many other things. It's going to be a foundation for new kind of applications, the same way as we normally take an open source brick that comes from a project and apply it to another project. Being able to have some open source diagnostic test that works means that you can apply those very easily to other kind of sickness. So I really predict the creation of a boom, of open source biotechnologies or technologies for health and for like more difficult problems, complex problems such as climate change, etc. And see more and more companies actually using open source technologies too, because if you can decrease the cost of R&D and you can have a more distributed approach, like at the end, a company still have to, it's a centralized entity. So if you do something, at the end, it's your responsibility to be able to if your technology is amazing and can really have an impact, it's your responsibility to distribute it everywhere in the world. That takes
Right.
time. That really takes time. You have to put in place so many logistics,
That is true.
processes, and so the impact of your technology is going to be reduced because it won't get everywhere in time. And we live in a period of where, like, not only the pandemic, but climate change and biodiversity issue, and that we don't have that many years actually to improve those real problems, and so waiting for companies to scale and to grow is we're losing time, basically. So being able to work directly on open source technologies that companies can share, and communities can participate to the development. It means that then any company in the world can say, okay, I'm going to produce that and distribute it locally and make some money with it. So it's going to be viable and sustainable. And that's really important. And I think the current vision of innovation is very partial. That knowing that to succeed in innovation, you need to have this kind of monopoly approach. That's the vision that has been put in place by the GAFA, basically. And that you have no competitors truly to Facebook or to Twitters, and people have tried, but they didn't succeed. But at the end, what matters is, imagine that Facebook is open source,
Right.
and so the way you would develop it, maybe it will change in the you have like more local companies running their own version of Facebook, and you will be able to explore like many more ways of using technology such as Facebook, and then at the end people can copy each other and okay, what they've been doing, let's say like in Chile, is very interesting. Let's implement this also. So you have this collective intelligence, collective network of innovators that really demultiply our ability to explore similar problems. And that's what we need. Like the current way we do innovation is very centralized. It means that we trust the ability of a very small team of people to be right, about a specific, like to be about what kind of solutions we need for this problem. And because we focus everything on those like few companies, means that we may actually miss a better one because we don't have actually provided efforts on alternative paths. And so basically, to make this vision happen, it means to put in place a new kind of business model that is based on sharing. And it's going to take some time because it's a different kind of philosophy. It's a different kind of culture. But by having good examples that are convincing, such as what's happening with Open COVID-19, I believe that we are on the right path to make this happen.
Great. I wanted to comment before we go to the next question. In terms of product, prototypes, potential scale, of course, the first thing that people would think of in terms of COVID-19 would be the vaccine, naturally. But then again, it's one thing to talk about the prototype, the product, the potential scale. It's another to talk about procurement, or how other people would be able to get it. Of course, at the top of my head, I'm in the Philippines. It's a low-resource country. If a product was produced in the United States or France, I don't think it's that easy for us to get that vaccine. And I do think it will take more than a year for us to get it because there are lots and lots of bureaucracy involved. So that's one thing, procurement. Another is sustainability, which is that one thing I really like about your response. Of course, vaccines can work for the pandemic. Hopefully it would work for the COVID-19, but we also have to think about a vaccine that can work for other sicknesses out there, but hopefully a pandemic won't happen again because it kills us, not just physically, but metaphorically as well. So, which furthers again the importance and the relevance of Joggle. It's there as an instrument to make us all work together such that it bypasses governments, the academe institutions, and all the things that would make us kind of not want to do research. So thank you for responding to that question, and I really like that. We have another one from the audience. How can we instill the idea of collaboration in response to COVID-19, especially to those who treat the problem as a pure health or political issue? Thanks. Wow.
So it's very hard to convert the philosophy, the culture, the habits of someone, and either you're someone who is open-minded, and you're ready to try something new, or somehow you have this voice in the back of your head saying that this is actually, this open approach is better. It's going to be it's going to have more impact for society. But sometimes you're just so focused on your own job, especially when you're in institutions, that you lose actually the ability of taking a step back and say, okay, what can I truly change? Like it's those are such complicated machines that that actually I'm not necessarily a critique of individuals. I'm really critique of the system, because anyone who enters those kind of system, they lose themselves. It's very hard actually to find self-autonomy, and a sense of self-criticism, about what's going on, and be able to act. I had this feeling when I was still a researcher in academia, where I felt like if I wanted to change academia, it would take probably like dozens of years, because it's you cannot move it, and the only way is to create external systems. So I feel like if you want to bring people who only treat a problem with like a monodisciplinary approach, it's by providing examples that where they see that people using a transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary approach are more efficient than them. It's and by offering them the ability to change their own culture of problem solving. But this is hard. It's really hard to change people's habits, especially when they've been doing it for decades. For the young generation, it's much easier, because for them it's the same. Like they used to interact with people all the time on social medias. They listen to many kind of podcasts or YouTubers, so it's I think it's much easier for the younger generation to not be trapped, in a system that they've been working in for decades, like the older generation. But again, it's revolutions takes time. We usually give the date, to the start of a revolution, but it's been prepared for many years before. So I think we're going to see such transition, and COVID-19 has been one massive element of catalyzation, for such a change.
I wanted to comment again because I really felt that response, which treats the problem as a pure health or political issue. I'm very much aware of the medical community here in the Philippines because both of my parents are doctors. And I've met some of them, and I would say they're not that ready to collaborate with people outside of the medical field because they think the COVID-19 is a pandemic and therefore only medical practitioners have to address it with authority. And of course, in my head, I'm thinking I'm not a medical practitioner, but I do know that COVID-19 affects me as well. So we're dealing with, I would say, a lot of older people who refuse to share possible solutions with younger people just because they think that they're good at it. And as you mentioned earlier, they've been in it for decades. And it's hard to shape such attitude, such perspective in life. And I mean, I'm also a teacher, so I really just want to show my students that your parents are the only people out there who can help you. It takes an entire village to raise a child, and therefore it takes an entire world as well to address something as big as the COVID-19 pandemic. And I felt that. I felt your response.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it's a very
Mama.
good
I
point.
really felt that. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a very good point. You know, when people are facing big crises, they turn back on their fundamentals, and they become more conservatory.
Right.
And that's what we've seen, you know, in institutions. That it's very hard for them. So at the same time, they have to react very fast, and they're putting in place some, you know, extraordinary measures. Like, for example, in France, they've been funding. They've created financial help for companies and people who will not be having jobs because of the lockdown. And that's been fantastic. That would have never happened otherwise. But it's I would say that on the long run, you know, once the crisis, like the moment where we all stress because, you know, it's chaotic, you know, during that chaos, everything is possible. Because, like, we don't know what to do, and so we're ready to do everything. We're creating shortcuts, and what's what we've seen in hospitals, and the way that the citizens have reacted, you know, and it's been beautiful to see. But that was very short-lived. You know, that was just during the time of crisis. I think that we're going to see a long-term effect of that crisis, especially on the economy. And during that moment, we probably will see institutions going back on more conservatory approaches, because they will be stressed, they will be, you know, moved, and they will try to recover in some ways. Some others we probably say it's a good opportunity to completely change culture. And you know, when you look back in 2008, after the financial crisis, a lot of new initiatives were born. Actually, La Payas makes sense, you know, was born after the financial crisis.
Yeah, I read that.
And so I think this crisis we're going to see in the next, you know, 2-3 years already now, the creation of incredible ideas and projects that are trying to capture, you know, the spirit that has been going on during that crisis moment. It's okay, how can we scale it, you know, and propose it as an alternative path for the current society.
Thank you. May I just say that open sources like Joggle, open laboratories, open data like Joggle, there need to be more like this, such that we could address the pandemic, and that a new pandemic will not happen again in the future. All right. So I've been told, yeah, hopefully, of course.
It's impossible to predict, right?
Right. I don't
what
want
we can
another
do
thing.
is work a lot on creating measures and technologies that can really help us face a new pandemic. But there is no reason that could help us say that there will be no pandemic in the future.
Right.
I would say it's probably 100% sure that will be a new pandemic in the future. And so we need to be more resilient. You know, we need to be more prepared to face those new pandemics in the future, even if it happens in 20 years, in 50 years. You know. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Thomas. I'll do a quick shout out. Okay, so Vincent Chube is inviting a lot of his friends to watch as well. Fiona, Jocelyn Lagio, Mary Bernadette M. Regacho, Carlo Pablo, Angelo Santiago. Elros John, great discussion. So that's directly towards you, Thomas. Great discussion, he says. Who else? Elros John, open science is awesome. Yeah, I'm learning about it right now. Ray Edison Refundo, our scientists need more funding. Yes. Yes, they do. So politicians, you need to listen to this. All right. What was I supposed to do next? Okay. Um, Toma, what are your key takeaways from this discussion we have right now? Like, what are the key points you want your audience to remember, even after this?
I would say first that this pandemic has been an incredible demonstration of our, ability to collaborate beyond borders and disciplines, and that it's a beautiful proof that new kind of organizations are possible, not only for social affairs and helping each other in a city, in a village, to support each other as it's been going on for forever, but that for things such as that are complicated, such as science and innovation, that has been in the hands of very specific kind of jobs, specific kind of institutions, that alternatives also are possible. With open science is not new. Citizen science is not new. We have beautiful examples of a way to involve citizens in scientific projects. We had them for decades, but they were always having this kind of top-down approach where it was completely designed by scientists, for on tasks that were very simple. So I think this is just a proof that if you want to create a project that is impactful in a way that it's producing knowledge, or it's producing a tool, or it's improving an existing tool to answer a problem that is local or global, that you don't have to create necessarily a startup. You don't have to become a researcher. You can find a new business model. You can find new ways for you to use your skills and experience to be part of that universal advances for understanding of the universe, basically. And that for me is fantastic, because I believe that we don't have to be a career scientist to be able to focus, let's say, even 6 months or a year in your life on contributing to science. I see that a lot of projects would have never been born if not for Open COVID-19 and Joggle, and those projects are having quite an impact already. I believe that if you give us a bit more than 5 years, that I believe that we will have more than at least a few 100,000 people. And if that's the case, we already have resources, like the size of a community, and the type of dynamic that would go beyond any kind of research systems in the world. And so I think we're going to see a new kind of revolution where commons, scientific and technological commons, are going to be at the center of new innovation. The same as what's going on with software today. Software would have never been so great today if not for open source or free software. A lot of technologies are open in the software world, such as Linux for servers, and so many languages and bricks that you can use for creating your own websites and tools and algorithms. That speeds up innovation and our ability to create services, and to make our lives better. And we're seeing this in hardware, we're seeing this in biotech, and I'm super excited actually to see where this is all going. But we live in a finite world, and we need to invent ways that are more sustainable to do innovation also, because innovation is using a lot of resources because of this centralized way. So if we can make innovation more sustainable by making it more distributed, more open, more accessible, and more focused also on local problems that matters. To not have bullshit innovation, for example. We're going to help make the price better. So yeah, I think that it's not only about the technology, it's not only about the service, it's really also about the system and the way we make this happen, the motivation, the incentives, who is involved, etc. So that we get rid of the current bias.
Thanks, Thomas. There's a quick question from our audience. What is this? I missed the answer. Sorry. What's the business model of Joggle?
Oh,
Yeah.
I was answered that question before, but I'm going to repeat it in a
Yeah.
shorter way. Our business model is, as a nonprofit, we get funded by partners such as foundations, companies that want us to be able to create to support a community of contributors around a specific thematic. So for COVID-19, we were supported by the AXA Research Fund and some other foundation, and it's a way for us to guarantee that the platform remains free. The way we imagine the future is also as the community is growing, it's to have the community be able to support directly the projects, and it's I think especially the development of the platform. So one objective we have for 2021 is to introduce a new feature within the platform, which are going to be what we call Joggle spaces, a way for existing communities and organizations to have a presence, a controlled presence within this giant community, which is Joggle. Currently, if you join Joggle, you join this giant sea, of projects and talents, but you get diluted as an organization. So if you want to be able to be an island within that ocean, and be able to interact with all those people and projects, you'll be able to do that thanks to Joggle Spaces. And because that's going to be for more advanced use of Joggle, we believe that companies and organizations will be able to share the cost of running the platform with us. So we probably have some kind of freemium model where we want the platform to remain entirely free for users, individual users, but for organizations, it may actually be there may be actually some fees. So it's even for us, we explore different kind of business models, and obviously the objective is to be sustainable without relying on external help, such as grants, coming from foundations, but it will take some time. Ideally, I would say that in 5 years, I would love Joggle to be self-funded by its own community. So we have this the community not only provide help to projects, but they also help support the whole organization by providing some kind of feedback funding too. It's going to take some time to put this in place, but it's definitely a goal.
That's the dream, isn't it? For every researcher to be able to sustain himself or herself. It's a really grand, but I would hope it's possible for Joggle to be that, for the community to be able to sustain itself. And I did try to look into your partner organizations. My God, you have an impressive list of partners there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, I personally know Sanofi, for example, because they sponsored my parents once, and wow, I was just impressed with what I did research about Joggle. Anyway, we're moving on to the next portion of our program. It's localization, or how we try to appropriate Joggle's business models, Joggle's features into the Filipino context, of course, localizing open science. And I think I have to share with you the research culture, if there is such a thing, or even the research scene in the Philippines. foremost would be the issue of lack of money. I mean, it's not a secret to anyone, but we really do not have much money for any kind of research in any field. And if there is money, there is a monopoly. Basically, whoever gives the money says which organization gets the money, when in fact there are other organizations who equally need the money we have there. In addition to that, when we lack government support, okay, while there is state support in the form of DOST, Department of Science and Technology, clearly it's not enough. Okay, and it's not enough because there are still persisting issues in the Philippines that not only science can target. For example, we have lack of funding, lack of state support, and just thinking about those things make me think that open science, Joggle particularly, is such a huge help in that manner because it's free resources, free access to methodologies, not just in science but across different other disciplines. Because Joggle is transdisciplinary, one feature that the United Nations also mentions. But one thing I'd like to our audience to think about is the Philippines has another obstacle, even if there's open research, and that's Wi-Fi infrastructure. It's an issue because we all can feel it in this time during the pandemic. Yes, we're in a lockdown. Most of the time, we're just at home. We are highly encouraged to not go out of our houses. And what do? We rely on Wi-Fi, on the internet to entertain us, to make us somewhat feel like we're going to survive this pandemic of sorts. The issue with that is not everyone has access to Wi-Fi, all right? And we're not just talking about Metro Manila. We're talking about the multitude of islands we have here in the Philippines. We're an archipelago, and our infrastructure for Wi-Fi does not have state support as well, nor is it very sophisticated. Okay? And when you mix them all together, lack of state funding, lack of resources to do research, and also lack of Wi-Fi infrastructure, you have us here, a low-resource country who badly affected by the COVID-19, just waiting for a vaccine to arrive when in fact we have resources to produce our own vaccine. And Joggle can help us with that because it can provide us sources, all right? How much there's so many things we want to do to help ourselves, but then again, there are obstacles there that we just can't seem to move past, all right? And Toma, are you there? I just have a teensy question for you. There, Toma is there. Right, so I mentioned lack of state support, lack of a research scene of sorts that can disempower the Filipino researchers, sorry about that, and also lack of Wi-Fi infrastructure. Just your thoughts. How do you think the average Filipino researcher can help address COVID-19, maybe via Joggle, but without the Wi-Fi infrastructure to do that?
So you mean that how can they contribute without being connected to the internet?
Yeah, I know it sounds unfair, but maybe you have thoughts about it.
Yeah, so obviously you need to know okay, it's a hard question. We've thought about it.
Yeah, I know.
And so far, I would say that it would be very hard. If you cannot synchronize yourself with what's going on in the community, it becomes almost useless. Except if you are able to synchronize once in a time on a regular basis through the help of I don't know, someone else that can bring you the information, or through SMS, for example, like through text messages, for example, that use GSM. It's a kind of logistics that we are not facilitating currently. It's because it will ask a lot of trial and efforts, to make it work very well. But if we really want to go all the way to our mission of accessibility, we will have to do it at some point. I don't know when, but it's a hard problem. And I would say it's such a hard problem that we cannot start with such a hard problem to start Joggle, basically. So unfortunately, cannot actually incorporate unconnected people, the people that are not connected to the internet in our current system. That's unfortunate, really. And the without having someone who does the interface. Like if you have someone who has access to internet and explain to a local team by the phone, like, hey, can you actually try to do that? And they transfer the protocol, or they get access to the data somehow. Maybe that's feasible, but otherwise, unfortunately not.
Right. Thank you so much for responding to that. I know it's unfair, but you still answered it, and thank you for that. And of course, I want to comment on that one. It's definitely hard to access Joggle with all of its very promising features without internet connection. And which, well, that one is something we can't control because obviously we can't provide everyone with internet connection, of course. That highlights the role and the responsibility of privileged researchers like you and I, and you members of the audience. We have access to the internet. And I think that our notion of collaboration should not just revolve around collaborating among each other, with each other, towards addressing COVID-19, but collaboration extends as well to sharing our own resources to our fellow Filipino researchers, such that we could access such a wonderful resource material like Joggle. And maybe then we could actually understand what collaboration is all about, right? So again, thank you, Thomas, for that one. Thank you so much for responding to that question. And I hope everyone enjoyed that. Before anything else, Thomas, do you want to plug in your social media accounts, social media platforms?
Sure. So
Yeah.
you can have access to Juggle at joggle.io. The platform itself is at app.joggle.io. But if you want to learn more about Joggle itself, you can go to the website joggle.io. You can follow us on social medias. Myself, my handle name is Toland. I don't know if we can write it somewhere. It's THOLAND _. And you can find me, on Twitter, Instagram, and but for just one Giant Lab. On Twitter, Facebook, and any social media, in Instagram, we have at Just One Giant Lab, on LinkedIn also, and we have the same for Open COVID-19. So we share news about Juggle projects, people when we have calls, community calls. So if you want to be it's THOLAND, like Toland. Yeah, no worries. So yeah, if you want to, thank you. Yeah, if you want to be aware of when we have a meeting, a call, a conference, a webinar, you can follow us on those social medias.
I have a quick question, Thomas. If, for example, we have another conference of sorts, that does not have anything to do with Saliksik, how do we invite you? Like via joggle.io, or we email you?
Again, sorry.
If we want to invite you for another conference that may or may not be connected with Saliksik, do we just email you or Twitter?
Sure, yeah. Or you write me on medias. Anything works.
All right.
Or you can write to me also on Joggle. We have a direct messages feature.
Okay. You're so reachable. I like that. Most researchers I know aren't as reachable as you are, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So we're actually already in our closing remarks right now. So if our members of the audience, we actually have a lot of questions. I personally can see them as we were going along this talk. If there are lots of them, feel free to contact the Saliksik team, or even Thomas himself, because he's very open to answering your questions. And the questions are actually really good. It's just that we have a time limit, right? So we're moving on to the closing remark. We want to thank you, Thomas, for joining us in this event. And we hope to see you again in our future events. Personally, I think that was a very educating, enlightening talk that I would love to share with my own students. Most of them are from engineering and political science, and I think Joggle will help them a lot, especially in their thesis. We also want to thank HEED, HEED, and Make Sense for partnering with us in this event. Aside from SalikeSPEAK, we have Saliksikat, where we invite a Filipino researcher to share notes on our page for a week and have a live session with them by the end of the week. Follow our Facebook page for more updates and check out our website, saliksikph.com. That is saliksikph.com, where you can pledge support for Filipino research or even start your own campaign. Because the Filipino researcher is not elusive as you think they are. A Filipino researcher should be accessible to you and they should be ready to help you anytime, right? And help them as well because they need funds. Scientists need research funds. And yes, I'm talking to politicians out there. Again, thank you so much, Toma, and let's empower Filipino research together. Thank you and have a great
Definitely.
weekend ahead. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you to you too. I really appreciate this moment we shared, and thank you for all the great questions too.
All right. I mean, even if the live feed ends, thank you, Toma. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. I wanted to thank you because I'm not from the sciences. I'm actually from the humanities, but I understood your talk. So I'm genuinely happy, excited that I actually understood concepts in science. So thank you again.
I'm
Thank you
glad
so
to.
much. Thank you.